Good evening, and welcome to Cozy Sleep Time. Get comfortable and take a slow breath. Let your body relax more and more. Tonight's story is about the sweet dreams. Simply listen or let your mind drift. There is no need to focus. Let the quiet story begin. Tonight, we explore a discovery that changed how we understand sleep itself. The story of circadian rhythms begins over 3 centuries ago, when a French astronomer noticed something curious about a mimosa plant in his study. Jean-Jacques Dortu de Moran had placed the plant in a dark cupboard, expecting its leaves to stay closed without sunlight. Yet each morning the leaves opened, and each evening they closed, following a rhythm that seemed to exist entirely within the plant. This was the first documented evidence of what we now call a circadian rhythm, an internal biological clock that keeps time even when all external cues are removed. The word circadian comes from the Latin circa, meaning around, and diem, meaning day. It was coined in 1959 by Franz Halberg, who recognized that these cycles are not exactly 24 hours, but approximately so. In humans, the internal clock runs slightly longer, averaging about 24 hours and 12 minutes. This small discrepancy means that without external signals to reset it each day, the clock would gradually drift later and later. The true nature of these rhythms remained mysterious for centuries. The question was settled in the 1970s through the work of Seymour Benzer and Ronald Konopka, who studied fruit flies and discovered a gene they named period. Mutations in this gene could shorten, lengthen, or eliminate the fly's daily activity rhythms, proving that the clock was written into the genetic code itself. Similar clock genes have since been found in virtually every living organism, indicating that circadian timekeeping is a fundamental adaptation in the history of life. The evolutionary advantage of this internal clock is profound. Organisms that anticipate regular changes in their environment are better prepared than those that simply react. A body that raises its temperature before dawn is ready for activity the moment light arrives. Hormones are released at precisely the right times, preparing different organ systems for the tasks ahead. This anticipation, rather than reaction, is the great gift of the circadian system. The human circadian system is now understood as a complex hierarchy of clocks throughout the body. A master clock in the brain, a cluster of about 20,000 neurons called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, sits just above where the optic nerves cross. This master clock receives information about light from the eyes and uses it to synchronize the entire body. Individual organs also have their own clocks, each tuned to different rhythms and signals. The coordination of all these clocks is essential for health. Today, our understanding of circadian rhythms has practical significance for nearly every aspect of daily life. Shift work, jet lag, the glow of screens at night, and the fact that many of us spend most of our daylight hours indoors all challenge the ancient timing system encoded in our genes. Learning about circadian rhythms is the first step toward living in greater harmony with the internal clock that has guided life on Earth for billions of years. As we settle into the quiet of night, we can appreciate that the same rhythms guiding our breath and heartbeat have been keeping time since long before humans walked the earth. Deep within the brain, in a region called the hypothalamus, a tiny structure the size of a grain of rice serves as the body's master timekeeper. The suprachiasmatic nucleus, made up of roughly 20,000 specialized neurons, sits just above where the 2 optic nerves cross on their way from the eyes to the visual cortex. This cluster of cells exerts extraordinary influence over virtually every physiological process in the body, coordinating the daily rhythms of sleep, hormone release, body temperature, metabolism, and more. The suprachiasmatic nucleus receives its most important information directly from the eyes through a dedicated pathway. Specialized cells in the retina, called intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, differ from the rods and cones that handle vision. These cells contain a light-sensitive pigment called melanopsin, which is particularly responsive to short-wavelength blue light. When light enters the eyes, these cells send signals directly to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, informing it about the presence or absence of light. This direct connection is why light exposure has such a powerful effect on sleep and wakefulness. Morning light triggers a cascade of events that prepare the body for the day ahead. The master clock suppresses the production of melatonin, the hormone that promotes sleep. It stimulates the release of cortisol, which provides energy and alertness. Body temperature begins to rise. Digestive processes prepare for food. The entire system shifts from nighttime restoration to daytime activity. This orchestration happens gradually, which is why waking naturally with the light feels different from being jolted awake by an alarm clock in darkness. As evening approaches, the suprachiasmatic nucleus initiates the opposite transition. Melatonin levels begin to rise, typically around 9 or 10 in the evening for someone with a typical schedule. Body temperature starts to drop. Alertness declines. The brain begins preparing for sleep. This transition is not a simple shutdown, but an active process with specific neural pathways promoting sleep, just as other pathways promote wakefulness during the day. The master clock communicates with the rest of the body through multiple channels. Neural connections through the autonomic nervous system carry timing signals to organs throughout the body. Hormonal signals, particularly melatonin and cortisol, travel through the bloodstream to reach every cell. Body temperature itself acts as a timing signal, since cells throughout the body can sense temperature changes and adjust their internal clocks. This redundancy ensures that even if one communication pathway is disrupted, others can maintain coordination. The suprachiasmatic nucleus also coordinates the activity of peripheral clocks in the liver, heart, kidneys, muscles, and virtually every other organ. These peripheral clocks are synchronized by the master clock through neural and hormonal signals, ensuring that all the body's rhythms are aligned with each other and with the external environment. When this coordination breaks down during jet lag or shift work, the desynchronization between clocks contributes to fatigue, digestive problems, and other symptoms. One of the most remarkable aspects of the suprachiasmatic nucleus is its resilience. Even when isolated from the rest of the brain, it continues to generate robust 24-hour rhythms. Individual neurons within the nucleus each have their own molecular clocks, and they communicate with each other through chemical signals to maintain synchrony. This tiny cluster of cells has been keeping rhythm within us since before birth, coordinating the intricate dance of our physiology every day and night. Of all the signals that influence our internal clock, light is the most powerful. The relationship between light and the circadian system is direct and ancient, shaped by billions of years of evolution under the sun's daily cycle. Understanding this relationship helps explain why modern lighting can disrupt sleep and why managing light exposure is one of the most effective ways to improve rest. The pathway from light to the circadian clock begins in the eyes, but not with the cells we use for sight. A specialized class of retinal cells, discovered only in the early 2000s, contains a pigment called melanopsin that is maximally sensitive to blue light at wavelengths around 480 nanometers. These cells do not contribute to visual perception. Their sole purpose is to detect the presence and intensity of light for the circadian system. When light enters the eyes, these cells send signals along a dedicated neural pathway directly to the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Morning light signals to the master clock that a new day has begun. This advances the clock, pulling it earlier so that the body prepares for waking and activity at the appropriate time. Even brief exposure to morning light, as little as 15 to 30 minutes, can have significant effects on circadian timing. The light does not need to be direct sunlight. Overcast skies still provide far more light than indoor illumination. Evening light has the opposite effect. When the melanopsin-containing cells detect blue light after dark, they signal to the suprachiasmatic nucleus that it is still daytime. This delays the clock, pushing it later and making it harder to fall asleep at the desired time. The effect is particularly pronounced with the blue-rich light emitted by computer screens, tablets, smartphones, and LED bulbs. Using these devices in the hours before bed can shift the circadian clock by an hour or more, creating a pattern of late sleep onset and difficulty waking that mirrors mild jet lag. The intensity of light matters as much as its timing. Typical indoor lighting ranges from about 100 to 500 lux. Outdoor daylight, even on a cloudy day, typically exceeds 10,000 lux. This means indoor lighting has relatively little effect on the circadian system compared to natural light. People who spend most of their time indoors receive circadian signals that are weak and ambiguous, which can lead to poorly synchronized rhythms. The solution is more exposure to the bright light of the outdoors. Blue light deserves special attention because of its outsized effect on the circadian system. Blue light in the morning is beneficial, helping to set the clock and boost alertness. Blue light in the evening is problematic, signaling to the brain that it should be alert when it should be preparing for sleep. Many devices now offer blue light filtering modes that shift the display to warmer colors in the evening. While less effective than simply reducing screen time before bed, these filters can reduce the circadian disruption caused by evening device use. The relationship between light and the body's clock is a reminder that we are adapted to a world of bright days and dark nights. By understanding how light affects our internal timekeeping, we can make choices that support our natural biology, allowing sleep to come more easily and rest to be more restorative. The alternation between sleep and wakefulness is the most visible expression of our internal clock, but the relationship between the circadian system and sleep is more nuanced than simply feeling tired at night and alert during the day. Two distinct processes interact to create the daily pattern of sleep and wakefulness, and understanding them reveals why we feel the way we do at different times. The first process is called sleep homeostasis, or process S. Throughout the hours we spend awake, a drive for sleep builds gradually in the brain. This sleep pressure reflects the accumulation of certain substances, most notably adenosine, a chemical that promotes sleep and inhibits wakefulness. The longer we stay awake, the more adenosine accumulates and the stronger the urge to sleep becomes. Sleep itself clears adenosine and other sleep-promoting substances from the brain, resetting the homeostatic drive to its lowest level. The second process is the circadian alerting signal, or process C. Generated by the suprachiasmatic nucleus, this signal actively promotes wakefulness during the day and promotes sleep at night. The circadian signal for wakefulness is strongest in the late morning, which is why many people feel most alert several hours after waking. It dips in the mid-afternoon, creating a natural window of reduced alertness, then rises again in the early evening before falling away as bedtime approaches. These two processes work in opposition throughout the day to produce stable alertness. The homeostatic sleep drive builds continuously from the moment we wake. Without the circadian system to counteract it, we would become progressively sleepier as the day went on. The circadian alerting signal rises during the day, counteracting the mounting sleep pressure. The result is sustained alertness through most of the daylight hours. In the evening, the circadian signal falls, allowing the accumulated sleep pressure to be felt. The interaction between these processes explains several common experiences. The afternoon dip in alertness, sometimes called the post-lunch dip, occurs because the circadian alerting signal weakens in the mid-afternoon while sleep pressure is already substantial. This is why many people feel drowsy after lunch, though the effect has nothing to do with the meal itself. Similarly, difficulty falling asleep when traveling westward is explained by the circadian system continuing to promote wakefulness long after the local time suggests it should be bedtime. The two-process model also explains why sleep feels different depending on when it occurs. Sleep in alignment with the circadian trough, typically in the early morning hours, is the deepest and most restorative. Sleep out of alignment, such as during the daytime for a night shift worker, is shorter, lighter, and less refreshing. The circadian system does not simply permit sleep at certain times, but actively shapes its quality and depth. Understanding the sleep-wake cycle in this way takes the mystery out of common sleep difficulties. Feeling alert at 10 in the evening is not a personal failing, but a reflection of the circadian system doing what it evolved to do. By respecting both the homeostatic drive for sleep and the circadian timing of alertness, we can work with our biology rather than against it. The circadian clock influences far more than sleep. Throughout the day and night, body temperature rises and falls. Hormones are released in precise sequences, and metabolic processes accelerate and decelerate according to a carefully orchestrated schedule. These daily rhythms affect how we feel, how we perform, and how our bodies respond to the world around us. Body temperature follows one of the most reliable circadian patterns. Core temperature is lowest in the early morning hours, typically between 3 and 5 in the morning, when it drops about 1 to 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit below the daily average. From this low point, temperature rises through the morning and afternoon, reaching its peak in the late afternoon or early evening. The evening drop in temperature is a signal that prepares the body for sleep. This is why a warm bath before bed can aid sleep. The cooling that follows amplifies the natural temperature decline, promoting drowsiness. The hormone cortisol follows a daily rhythm essential for energy and alertness. Cortisol levels begin rising in the early morning hours, even before waking, and reach their peak about 30 to 45 minutes after we get out of bed. This morning surge helps the transition from sleep to wakefulness. Levels decline through the afternoon and evening, reaching their lowest point around midnight. Disrupted cortisol rhythms with elevated evening levels are associated with chronic stress and poor sleep quality. Melatonin is the hormone most directly linked to the sleep-wake cycle, but its role is often misunderstood. Melatonin does not cause sleep directly. Rather, it signals that darkness has arrived and that it is time to prepare for sleep. Melatonin levels begin to rise in the evening and remain elevated through the night before falling in the early morning hours. The timing of melatonin release is controlled by the master clock in response to light. Growth hormone follows a striking pattern, with most of its release occurring during deep sleep in the first half of the night. The body uses deep sleep for tissue repair, muscle growth, and cellular maintenance. Growth hormone stimulates protein synthesis and supports the immune system, which is why adequate sleep is essential for recovery from illness or injury. Metabolism follows daily rhythms as well. Glucose tolerance, the body's ability to process sugar, is higher in the morning and lower in the evening. The same meal eaten at different times can have different effects on blood sugar. The digestive system prepares for food intake in anticipation of regular meal times. Insulin sensitivity varies throughout the day. These metabolic rhythms evolved to match the pattern of feeding during daylight and fasting through the night. The cardiovascular system also shows clear daily patterns. Blood pressure drops during sleep, a phenomenon called nocturnal dipping, and rises upon waking. Heart rate follows a similar pattern. The morning hours are associated with increased risk of heart attack and stroke, reflecting the transition from rest to activity. Understanding these rhythms helps explain why timing matters for medication effectiveness. All of these rhythms are coordinated by the master clock, but each has its own characteristics. They are deeply embedded features of our biology, guiding the body through each day and night with remarkable precision. Understanding how the circadian clock works is valuable only if it helps us live better. The practical implications of circadian science extend into nearly every aspect of daily life, from when we eat to when we exercise to how we manage modern schedules. Small adjustments can produce significant improvements in sleep quality, energy, and overall well-being. Morning light exposure is one of the most effective tools for circadian alignment. The master clock is most sensitive to light in the early morning, when it resets for the day ahead. Spending 15 to 30 minutes outdoors in the morning, even on overcast days, provides a strong timing signal that helps anchor the sleep-wake cycle. For those who cannot get outside, sitting near a bright window or using a light box can provide similar benefits. The key is consistency. Doing this at roughly the same time each day reinforces the clock's rhythm. Evening light management is equally important. As the body prepares for sleep, exposure to bright or blue-rich light can delay the clock and suppress melatonin. Dimming indoor lights in the evening, using warm-toned bulbs, and reducing screen time in the hour or two before bed all help signal to the brain that night has arrived. Many devices offer blue light filtering modes that shift the display to warmer colors. However, reducing screen time altogether is more effective than relying on software filters. Consistent sleep and wake times strengthen the circadian system. The regularity of the schedule matters more than the specific times chosen. Going to bed and waking at the same times every day, including weekends, helps anchor the clock and makes falling asleep and waking easier over time. Even a shift of an hour or two on weekends can create a mild form of jet lag called social jet lag. Meal timing also affects circadian rhythms, particularly in the liver and metabolic tissues. Eating meals at regular times helps synchronize peripheral clocks throughout the body. Late-night eating sends confusing signals, telling the digestive system to be active when the master clock is preparing for sleep. Many people find that finishing their last meal at least 2 to 3 hours before bed improves both sleep quality and morning alertness. Managing jet lag requires strategic use of light and darkness. When traveling eastward, seek bright light in the morning at the destination and avoid light in the evening. Melatonin supplements taken at the target bedtime can help shift the clock. Westward travel is generally easier because it requires staying up later. Bright light in the evening at the destination helps delay the clock to match the new time zone. Beginning the adjustment a few days before travel can reduce the severity of jet lag. For those who work night shifts or rotating schedules, complete adaptation to a reverse schedule is difficult, but partial adaptation is possible. Using bright light during the work shift, wearing dark sunglasses when traveling home in the morning, and creating a completely dark sleep environment during the day can help. Maintaining the same sleep schedule, even on days off, provides the most consistent circadian signals. The body's clock is a delicate and powerful system. By respecting its rhythms, supporting its timing signals, and working with rather than against its natural patterns, we can improve not only our sleep, but our entire experience of each day and night. As our story ends, let the quiet ideas settle softly. Your body can continue to relax, breathing slow and steady. If sleep is near, let it arrive naturally. Thank you for spending this moment here on Cozy Sleep Time. Return anytime for another peaceful journey. Good night.